The metal monster, Automotones, lurched into the house through the broken wall. It was truly huge now. It smashed upward with its flat, manhole-sized hands, ripping away at the ceiling, tearing a hole between the upstairs and the bottom floor to clear space for itself. Cal yelped and fell sideways, narrowly missing being smashed by a falling dresser. The piece of furniture broke open on the floor, scattering clothes. Suddenly, a sheet of fire appeared, like a living wall of flame, scourging the floor and igniting what was left of the ceiling. Jasper was holding the fire in place with obvious effort as Automotones roared and snapped. "Go!" Jasper said to Cal. "Run! I'll follow!" Cal felt bad about having called him a coward. Pushing himself off from the floor, he staggered toward the back of the house. Aaron and Tamara followed. Tamara had summoned a ball of fire, which glowed in her hand. She whipped her hair back, braids flying, toward where Jasper stood. "Come on, Jasper," Aaron called. "Now!" Jasper released his wall of fire and ran toward them, the metal elemental racing after. Tamara threw her summoned flame at the monster's maw as Jasper staggered out onto the lawn with Cal. Jasper was clearly exhausted from the effort he'd put out raising the fire screen. He made it a few feet onto the lawn and then collapsed. Cal took a step toward him, but had no idea what to do. There's no way he could carry Jasper and run. He could barely run without the weight of a whole extra person on his shoulders. Tamara ran over the lawn, Aaron just behind her. Behind them came Automotones, rearing and clawing as the flames boiled around it. Jasper's fire had clearly caught some of the furniture alight, and now the curtains and probably the walls were burning. The whole farmhouse was going to go up like a torch. "Jasper!" Cal reached for Jasper's arm and tried to at least pull him upright. Jasper made it onto his knees and then let out a yowl of terror. "Ugh!" Cal spun around and saw the metal elemental rising up over them, blotting out the sliver of moon. Its hands were reaching down. They looked like huge metal crab pinchers, about to close on Cal and Jasper, about to slice them in half. Cal remembered being in his father's awful workroom the past summer, remembered the rage he felt and how he looked at Alistair and just pushed. Now he tried to summon up all the rage and fear and awfulness he was holding inside and push it at Automotones. The monster flew back, emitting a noise that sounded like a rusty car being pulled apart. The noise turned to a raging growl as Automotones turned toward Tamara and Aaron. Aaron stepped in front of Tamara, raising his hand, but the monster swept him out of the way as if he were a pesky fly and grabbed for Tamara, lifting her up into the air. "Tamara!" Cal started to run toward the elemental, forgetting for a second that it was terrifying, that it was huge, that it was deadly. In his mind, he saw the metal pincer closing around Tamara, crushing her in its grasp. He was vaguely aware that Aaron was running and yelling too, that Tamara was struggling but silent in the creature's claw. All of a sudden, Automotones gave a lurch and a stumble. Tamara pulled free, tumbling onto the grass. The elemental writhed around, and Cal saw that Havoc had leapt onto its back, his chaos-ridden claws sinking into the metal skin, teeth tearing. The noise of ripping metal filled the night. But the creature shook itself, and Havoc lost its balance, legs scrambling desperately at the air. He was holding on by his teeth, and then wasn't holding on at all. He flew toward the house, toward the fire, whimpering as he fell. Summoning air, heedless of the elemental or the fight, Cal focused on his wolf. He concentrated on forming a soft cushion of circling wind to catch Havoc. Dimly, he heard the creature screeching close to him. Dimly, he understood that he was putting the rest of them in danger to make sure his pet was unharmed. But he didn't care. Havoc fell into Cal's air magic as if it were a net, bouncing a little, his paws flailing, his coruscating eyes wide. Slowly, Cal lowered the wolf to the ground, carefully. Bam! That was when the elemental hit him. It felt like being smashed by a giant wave. He heard Tamel yell his name, and then he was flying backward, hitting the ground with enough force to send a shockwave through his body. He rolled over, spitting out dirt and grass, and saw the metal elemental looming over him. It looked enormous, as big as the sky, its body blotted out. Cal struggled to get to his feet, his bad leg wobbling, but fell back into the grass. In the distance, he could see Tamara running toward them, ropes of fire swinging from her hands, but he knew she was too far away to get to him in time. Automotones was already swaying down toward him, its toothy jaws wide. Cal clutched at the dirt, trying to reach into it to summon up earth magic, but there was no time. He could smell the stink of metal and rust as the elemental opened its mouth to swallow him. Stop! The elemental jerked its head back. Cal swung around to see Aaron standing behind him, his hand outstretched. Shining in his palm was a cloud of oily darkness spilling upward. The expression on his face was one Cal couldn't remember seeing before. His eyes burned like brands, and a grimace pulled his face into something that looked disturbingly like a smile. The oily black nothingness flew from Aaron's hand and hurled straight down Automotones' throat. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the creature began to vibrate, metal clanking against metal. Cal stared. The elemental looked as if it was being crushed by a huge, invisible hand, its metal hide being sucked inward. It opened its mouth, and Cal saw the oily blackness fuming and bubbling inside it. He realized what was happening. The elemental was collapsing in on itself. Each joint and screw, each plate and motor, drawn into the expanding void that Aaron had hurled down its throat. There was a hand on Cal's shoulder. Aaron was drawing him up to his feet. The scare expression was gone from Aaron's face. He just looked grim, watching as Automotones gave a last howl and vanished into a speck of darkness that singed across the air. What happens to it? Jasper asked, running up. Where's it now? Is it dead? Cal looked back at the burning building, at the wreckage of cars. He didn't care where Automotones had gone. The important thing was that they were all safe. It's in the void, Aaron said, his voice flat. It won't come back. Come on, said Tamara. We need to get away from the fire. They began to make their way back toward the barn, Havoc running ahead of them. The air was filled with smoke, and the glow from the burning fire behind them turned the sky as light as day. What we need to do is go back to the Magisterium, Jasper said breathlessly. Show them what we found. Cal's dad has been in direct contact with the enemy's servants, remember? He's going to bring them to Alcahest. We need help. We're not going back to the Magisterium, Aaron said. His voice was the same, flat and rigid. Cal had the sense that he was holding back whatever he was feeling, tamping it down hard. They sent that thing after us. After Alistair, you mean, Tamara corrected. You don't believe what that old woman said, do you? Yeah, I do. She's got no reason to lie, Cal agreed. Now Aaron's voice started to crack a little. If they didn't send it, why did it attack Miss Tisdale? Why did it attack us? It ought to have been given instructions not to hurt us. Maybe they decided that if they couldn't get us back, it was better to have us dead than in the enemy's hands, said Jasper. They all looked at him in surprise. It's the sort of thing the assembly would do, he added, with a shrug. I thought you wanted to go back, Cal said. I do, but you guys have messed up royally. Jasper rolled his eyes at Cal like he was an idiot, an expression Cal was very familiar with. The longer we're away, the more convinced they're going to become that they have to cut their losses. Wipe out Aaron first, then wipe out us so that there are no witnesses, and it's just a tragedy. If Constantine Madden got a hold of Aaron, he could kill him, or he could brainwash him. Maybe they're afraid of that. Maybe they're afraid that losing Aaron to Constantine could lose them the war. Not having Aaron would lose them the war, said Tamara. He's the Makar. They had reached the barn. Jasper's face looked like cut stone in the flickering light. I don't think you understand how they do math. Enough, said Cal, turning to face the others. You guys go back to school. I think I can stop my father, so long as I can get to him in time. I have to talk to him. I have to try, but this is getting too dangerous for you to come along. They'll never get it, Cal thought. My dad wants his son back. He thinks if he trades the Alcahest to Master Joseph, Joseph can fix me, can make me Callum Hunt again. But Master Joseph's tricking him, trying to lure him in. He'll probably kill him once he gets the Alcahest. But Cal couldn't tell them that, any of that. You can't outrun